Katy Tur brought an expert from a terrorism expert to her show. His name is Chris O'Leary, Senior VP of Global Operations at the Soufan Group. This guy comes on, and in talking about the issue, the first thing he says, he would have expected the left to have more violence than we're presently seeing. But then he goes ahead and he says, but historically in this country, terrorism, domestic violence has mostly come or had come mostly from the left.
I rushed up here from the Global Summit on Terrorism and Political Violence. One of the topics was addressing this, and one of the questions asked earlier in the day to what we called the Mount Rushmore of terrorism experts, which is Peter Bergen, Brian Jenkins, Bruce Hoffman, and Dame Louise Richardson, decades of terrorism research. Why haven't we seen more violence from the left yet? Because the conditions are set, and normally we would see the cyclical effect that we'd see more violence coming from the left against the right. It's maybe a little bit more of a slow burn, but what generally happens is people look for legitimate solutions to their grievances, and when they can't find those or they feel ignored, then they will mobilize towards violence. So that's the traditional standard. If you look at political violence in the United States, which is a very unpopular thing to say, but through our history, most violence, what we would consider political violence, has come from what we categorize as the left. Now, that is from the anarchist movement straight up through the mid-1970s, and then we started seeing more right-wing violence after that. All went away after 9/11, because if you were throwing bombs or conducting shootings, you were lumped in with global jihadists.
So it is patently false. And what I had to do is immediately go ahead and do the research to find out that we have this guy purporting himself to be an expert that is completely ill-informing Americans in these dire times. A time when Charlie Kirk gets shot, we don't know by whom or ideology or anything, but let me tell you, I went ahead immediately and did our research, and most violence by a large proportion has occurred from the right. And here is the evidence that I've put in my Substack, titled False. MSNBC expert claimed most violence comes from the left. It is a false statement. Most violence has come from the right, from the inception of this country.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.